Hello. Okay, so I got my editing for day 3 done and I'm ready to share it. And then hopefully I can get editing for day 4 done at some point today. All right, day 3. The office was unusually chilly and active when System arrived at work on Wednesday morning. Crews were putting up decorations that were too generic to reveal their purpose. System walked to the break room, arriving as Marcia did, a small carton of milk in hand and backpack on one shoulder. She brewed her coffee and shared milk with her breathless friend before rushing to the phones. She took calls for an hour before the queue slowed enough that she could turn her attention to her list of cases that needed follow-up. She was ready to make her first outbound call when her supervisor sent her a message telling her to change her status to project mode and meet her at the lobby. She did so and rushed over. "You're here, great," her supervisor said with a painfully large grin on her face. "We have a big event this afternoon, a fundraiser. Some of you will get arrested and need to be bailed out. Can you help these guys finish decorating?" System replied without hesitation, "Absolutely." Decorating took almost 30 minutes, and by the time she got back to her desk, she felt tired. She needed more coffee. She would grab one after this next batch of work. Follow-up went smoothly from there. She got through her 5 urgent cases in 15 minutes and breathed a sigh of relief. She filed reports to justify time off from the phones, one for justified enrichment and one for case management. With a sigh of relief, she took a long, deep breath and then put herself back into the queue to take calls. When she had a moment to check the memo on her desktop, she noticed that she had a response from Charles. Her stomach tightened. Her first read-through of the message didn't take in any of the words. She took a deep breath and tried again. "Hi, System. Yes, I am IT. Proper desk setup is important to employee health. Thank you for doing your part to keep our shared space ergonomic. Remember to stay hydrated. Your health is important to us. Knock, knock." She rubbed her temples. A call came in and she answered it as she typed out the words, "Who's there?" New words had appeared. "Please enable." Where was this leading, and why was Charles replying now? Didn't they work opposite shifts? She typed, "Please enable who?" The call was simple, hardly requiring her to pay attention. She kept her eyes on the memo as she listened to her caller. She saw the words appear in the memo and had to stop herself from laughing out loud. Charles had written, "Cookies enabled." She laughed and rolled her eyes. The rest of the day went by like a walk through a foam pit, slow, silly, and exhausting in ways that didn't make sense. She was more than ready for home when her last call came in 3 minutes before she could log off and end her shift. Like any good last-minute call, it went on for almost an hour, and she had to mute her sighs. She had to feel the usual jokes. "Your name is System. Are you human?" She replied how she always responded, "Last time I checked." She kept a smile on her face as she said this to keep the cheer in her tone. When she finally ended that call, she did sigh loudly. She almost forgot to log out and for a moment panicked. If another call came in, she would have to take it. She glanced at the phone app and noted with confused relief that she was already logged out. Had she done that? She must have. Just before System drove home, she texted her supervisor from her previous department. Roberta had worked for the company since the 90s. She would certainly have met and worked with Charles and would be able to offer System some insight into her new desk mate. She was aware she hadn't yet replied to his joke, which he had somehow managed to share with her via her desktop memo. She had texted Roberta the words, "Hey, you free? Can we talk? I have a new deskmate I want to ask you about." She drove home and again sat in her driveway for a few minutes before getting out of the car. She went inside, poured herself a glass of red wine, and took a seat on the couch, coat still on and purse still strapped across her body. She looked at her phone. Roberta had given a thumbs-up response, so System gave her a call. "Hi, honey," Roberta said, voice warm and a bit grainy. "Who did you end up sharing a desk with? I don't have access to that information anymore." "Someone named Charles," she said, taking a sip of her wine. "He works in IT, and somehow he is commenting on my desktop memos." Roberta laughed. "Oh, yes. Charles was in office a lot back in the day, and by back in the day, I mean 5 years ago. He must have just returned to work. Now that there are more work-from-home options, he's probably relieved. Brilliant guy, but such a curmudgeon. Is he giving you any trouble?" "Nothing yet. He seems nice, quirky, but nice. He told me a knock-knock joke today." Roberta laughed. Was it a good joke? System took another sip of her wine. It was a dad joke. It did make me laugh. Is there anything I need to know about Charles? The question of what hours Charles kept came to mind. He had replied to her during her shift, but he worked in the evenings. When were his office hours exactly? She went to ask Roberta about this and realized this was probably information her prior supervisor didn't have access to. Roberta continued speaking, taking the silence as invitation to go on. As you noticed, he can see and interact with pretty much anything on your screen. He has access to offer real-time support, your screen, cameras, all the mics around the building. Maybe be mindful of what you say about him in the office. He's a good guy, though. He won't take advantage. He works irregular hours, too, so you will have to be patient when you ask for help. It's worth waiting for, though, because he is thorough. Is there anything else you want to talk about? No, that's everything, System said, sitting back a bit and sighing. Thank you for the chat. I hope you have a good night. Anytime, love, Roberta replied, warmth evident in her voice. Good night. The call ended and System sat for a full minute, phone in hand, processing what she had heard. Why was she, of all people, sharing a desk with someone like Charles? She chuckled and shook her head, putting her phone aside. Whatever this changed at work was going to be tomorrow's problem. All right, so that's that chapter, and I will work on editing day 4 and then share that soon, either tonight or maybe tomorrow.